You were the first and only Palestinian to ever win The Voice Israel. Would you do it again?
No, definitely not. I won in 2013, but they don't realize that it's only 3 months of your life versus 11 years of hard work.
Today's guest is an independent Palestinian pop singer, songwriter, and one of the most prominent artists in Palestine over the last decade. What do you want to achieve with your music?
I don't want other Palestinian artists to go through what I went through just to get where I'm getting to.
Today's guest is Lina Makoul.
We've been targeted since day one. We're censored. We're not allowed to say anything.
It is a privilege to be able to speak, and I think this is something that a lot of people might not necessarily comprehend when you're in this part of the world.
Why should my culture and where I come from change accordingly? I didn't migrate to this land. I inherited this land.
Welcome to Yellow Let's Talk. This guest's journey is inspiring and challenging, which has led her to use art and music as a form of advocacy and resistance. Her career highlights include winning The Voice at 19 years old, opening for Little Mix, Will Smith, Black, DJ Jazzy, Jeff, and Queen and Adam Lambert. Today's guest is Lina Makoul.
Hi, honey.
You were born in the US.
Right.
You were raised in Akka,
Yes.
which is now occupied Palestine. How was it like growing up in occupied Palestine in Akka?
It's very complex. Like, you grow up with an identity crisis in a way because you are born into this place. You know, that's all you know. And eventually every person tries to fit in where they live and make the best out of their living. So you normalize many things that should not be normalized. So you normalize that it's okay to be a minority with less rights. You normalize not being able to speak your own language in the street. You normalize so many things that when you grow up and you look back and you get to travel the world and see how other people live like, you're like, how am I normalizing this? You know, normalizing death to Arabs whenever you hear it your whole life and feeling like, okay, it's part of the place I'm coming from. This is not okay. And it's not easy to live in a land you inherited from your grandparents, which they inherited and worked very hard to get from their grandparents or themselves, you know, and live in a land that doesn't speak your language even. So it's very complex. But on the other hand, I'm grateful that I went through this because it made me understand firsthand what it's like to be a subject of an occupation.
Wow. So lots of complicated feelings.
Yeah.
Lots of complicated emotions. Because when you grow up, I liked how you said that you kind of are in like your own world. And then you start questioning things like, oh, this is not necessarily normal. Like, this is what's happening is not, there's a sense of injustice or something that's not right that's kind of stewing.
Yeah, because like where we live, you don't see the physical form of occupation. You don't see the checkpoints. You don't see soldiers who are being violent. You don't see any of that, you know? It's just like a dystopia that you're living. But you actually need to go to the West Bank, to Jerusalem, to see how things actually work in the physical form of occupation. The place we come from, the occupation comes in psychological forms, in cultural forms, in linguistic forms, you know? So it's really hard to realize what that is when you can't see it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Lina. I know it's even talking about this takes a lot of courage. So thank you for your courage. And I think a lot of people might not understand that there are Palestinians who have Israeli citizenship that are in occupied Palestine. And the next question I have is that some people refer to those Palestinians with Israeli citizenship as Arab Israeli.
Right. Saying Arab Israelis should include all the Jewish Arab Israelis as well, right? All those who immigrated from Egypt, from Iraq, from Yemen, from Syria, from everywhere, you know? But it doesn't represent all of these people. It only represents Palestinians, Palestinian Arabs in Israel. Which leads us to the logic that's behind it, which is the erasure of the Palestinian identity. And when you guys back home refer to us as Arab Israelis, you're erasing the Palestinian identity. Because my grandparents were Palestinians. They had Palestinian passports. They were Palestinians by law, you know? But also Palestinians by culture. So the only thing that's changed is how the country is called. So why should my culture and where I come from change accordingly, you know? Like, I didn't migrate to this land. I inherited this land. I've been there for as long as my family can go back. So, yeah, don't erase us.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And you're absolutely right. I think when you use the term just even as Arab or Arab Israeli, you're erasing and denying the existence of Palestinians, of our culture, of our history, of our ancestors.
Yes.
And I love the fact how you phrase it. It's not like you migrated to this land, you inherited this land.
Yes.
For those who might not know the term 48 Arab, can you tell us a little bit more what that term means and why Palestinians prefer that term?
You know what happened in 1948?
The Nakba.
So that's why.
Okay, so it's a term referred to because of the Nakba, and that's the most appropriate term that they have dubbed.
I think so, yeah. We usually say Palestinian al-Dakhil. Dakhil means like the inside, because, you know, like most Palestinians are not allowed in, so they're left out. So we're Palestinian al-Dakhil who are still in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Palestinian
Dakhil.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to kind of know the demographics in occupied Palestine right now. So there are Palestinians that are still there. There are other Arabs from different nations like Egypt or Syria. But for those ones, depending on the religion,
They don't even consider themselves to be Arab.
they don't consider themselves to be Arab. Okay, they consider themselves. What do they consider themselves?
Like they go by the name of the country. Like they're like, oh, I'm from Egyptian origins, but I'm Israeli, you know?
So it's more about their origins.
Because to
rather
them,
than-
like saying an Arab means us, like Palestinians. But to them, Palestine doesn't exist. So the term Palestinian doesn't exist.
It's crazy to think how there's so much education happening in the world right now, and there's so much validation of people's existence and identities and history. But then you have this one place and this one population trying to deny the existence of a whole community,
Yes.
of a whole population, of this whole
Millions
history,
of people. Yeah.
of millions of
Yeah.
people. And so I do think this is something we're going to see change. That's this is a
Inshallah.
prediction, because more people are being aware.
Yeah.
In the past, unfortunately, with the tragic things that have happened in the past few months, the one silver lining, and I say this, I don't even think there is a silver lining, but I think the one thing that has happened is that more people are awake to Palestinian liberation, to Palestinian struggles, to Palestinian lives and
People
existence.
are paying attention, are listening for the first time ever. They're looking and actually seeing, you know? And it never happened before.
And that never happened before. Which is crazy, because this occupation has been existing for the past 76 years, but so many people now know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, God bless social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lina, thank you so much for sharing and for shedding some light for a lot of people about what it's like to be a Palestinian in occupied Palestine right now, living in Akka, which is currently northern Israel. I want to talk about your latest project.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about On Mute.
So On Mute is an artistic project, I would call it. It's not a very typical release or a song or a music video. and it touches pain and censorship. Something I think we've all been struggling with in the past 8 months. I think the awakening that's been happening is beyond what we experienced during COVID. Beyond. Seeing all we see on social media, all the videos, it's so intense, and it's not even close to what's actually happening on ground. I think modern psychology doesn't even know what's happening to our souls and our thoughts and our brains at the moment. We've been targeted since day one. We're censored. We're not allowed to say anything. And to me, as an artist who actually, that's her way to speak up, like through art, I found myself speechless. Like, how can I make a statement? How can I speak up about what's happening and not keep it inside of me, because it was eating me from the inside, you know? I direct my music videos as well, so let's visualize the feeling that I'm feeling, since I can't talk about it. And it felt like I was stuck in a box made of glass, in the middle of the ocean, the beach, whatever, in a place where you're supposed to be free, to be able to swim, to just enjoy the gifts God has given us. But instead, I'm stuck in this box, screaming, but nobody listens. Like, the world has been very sympathetic with what's happening, but like, you feel like it's not good enough. Nothing is actually changing on ground. Like, okay, if they get tired of this, they would just turn their social media off and go for a walk.
It's a privilege, absolutely.
And I wanted them to actually, I wanted people to have empathy, to feel what it feels like to be stuck in this box of glass, screaming, but nobody can get to you or hear you. And then I remembered The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd. And it's exactly that. Like, it takes you on a whole journey of emotions without saying a single word. And you understand how strong and effective music can be, that it's a language on its own. So Unmute came to amplify all these things. Because one, there is nothing we can say to describe what's been going on. Second, I need to protest that I can't speak up about what's happening and about censorship. These two go hand in hand, because like, it's so many emotions present inside of you. Wow. And I had to let it out. So that's Unmute.
It is a privilege to be able to speak. And I think this is something that a lot of people might not necessarily comprehend when you're in this part of the world.
Yeah. I mean, you need a privilege to be taken away from you to understand it's a privilege, right?
Wow. You need a privilege to be taken away from you to understand that it's a privilege. That's a bar right there. There's so many different emotions, and not everyone knows or is able to articulate things, right? So sometimes just hearing your voice and hearing the sound will validate those emotions. Feeling that sense of being choked, being angry, being sad,
grieving. Like, yeah, you need to collectively grieve, you know, like
collectively grieve.
In the Arab culture, we grieve together. When we lose a loved one, for 3 straight days, we grieve together with the people that we love, with the people that love us. We spend 3 days together. And then again, we meet again after 40 days. And that's a beautiful thing, because you realize that you're not alone. You have a community. And this community takes care of you in the bad and in the good times. When you're getting married, or when you're struggling because you lost a loved one. And I think that's a beautiful part of our culture.
It is. Community is a huge thing. And thank you for sharing that. I feel like a lot of people who are listening right now, they're like, I want to hear a little bit of that song. Would you mind sharing some?
Yeah. My voice is like super tired after last night, but I can give like a glimpse. So Unmute from mid of it, okay? From the half.
Please. Wow. I need to give you a standing ovation. I don't know if this would be on camera. That was Lina, that's incredible. And there's like no auto-tune, full raw voice, emotions. MashaAllah. What do you want to achieve with your music?
I don't want other Palestinian artists to go through what I went through just to get where I'm getting to, you know? And it's really important to me to shoot all my music videos back home, to have a fully Palestinian crew working on them, to be able to pay each and every one of them their rate or close enough to their rate. And if I was able to have a production company that would help talents back home to express and translate their messages into art, I really want to do that.
Okay, so if anyone listening here who is starting or has a production company, connect with Lina. I love it. And I think that, again, it's a beautiful message to put out in the world. And I love the fact that you want to keep it very authentic to you, to your culture. My question to you is, do you feel like this is a struggle a lot of the Palestinian artists face when it comes to resources and lack of resources?
Oh, yeah, of course. Because we don't come from a place that offers infrastructure in almost any subject and any industry, especially not in the entertainment industry. Because you need, first off, a proper country with a proper budgeting and everything to be standing behind you and pushing you. You need venues that support your art. You need like grants. You need labels. You need production companies. You need booking agencies. And we don't have any of that. And it's not because we don't know the importance of this. It's just because where we live in and the state of the Palestinian state, you know? Like, it's not a functioning country. We're not a country. We don't have a country. We don't have anyone pushing us and saying this is the most important tool we have, which is art. And, you know, art has always been, throughout history, the most important way of expression and documentation.
Absolutely.
So it's clear why we don't have all these resources, you know? But that's one of the reasons why we feel like it's a responsibility of ours to document the times and to represent.
You're absolutely right. Music and art is a form of resistance and it's a form of expression. And something you mentioned that I want to also just dive a little bit more into is the fact that you said this is a struggle that a lot of Palestinians face when it comes to being in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
What are the options for Palestinians who are listening to this and want to become an artist and they're looking at you right now for inspiration?
I don't know. You need to have so much passion and fire inside of you and feeling like this, like being an artist is your actual being and not an option. Like, I don't think after everything I've been through in the past 11 years, if I didn't have the passion and the fire inside of me and my whole being wasn't being an artist, I would have given up long ago.
You would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah.
There is this fear of how you're being perceived. And the only thing that's keeping that or you from being your authentic self is yourself.
Yeah, because during COVID, you're stuck in a room, right? And you probably have a few mirrors in the room. So I was looking at myself and then checking out my social media because, that's where we existed. And I started to think like the person who is actually me, like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, that's like me. And then I'm like looking at my pictures on social media and it's like, that's a different version of me. And I'm like, but it's certainly not the same person. And I think the way I perceive myself in my brain and my mind and my thoughts sometimes is far from who we actually are, because it's who we want to be. It's the ego. It's the image that we build for ourselves that doesn't exist outside of our minds. So the way people perceive you, the way people see you is different from how you perceive yourself. So I was like, I should commit to bridging the gap between who people perceive me, because who I'm presenting myself to be, versus who I actually think I am or who I want to be. So you start like practicing on just acting based on the person you want to become and trying to like decrease the ego presence.
The ego presence.
You know?
I like that. And it kind of reminds me of this quote, is that I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it goes back to this whole perception of trying to figure out who you are, but you have this idea of yourself based on what people think.
Yes.
But then at the end of the day, what you're saying is you have to really ask yourself, who are you? Who is Lina? Who is, if you're listening, who is this X person?
Yes.
And I'm glad to see this journey of self-development and self-growth. What advice would you like to give someone who might be struggling to kind of reconcile who they are and figuring out who they are right now?
It's a long journey, so be prepared. It might take, it would definitely take years. But as long as you're committed to finding your authentic self, you'll be sure that there will never be a copy of you. And you will never be a copy of somebody else. And I think that's the best thing somebody can, يطمح له. يعني okay, Google Translate moment.
Do you guys know what مطمح له?
يطمح له.
I like that word though. Keep the Google
aspires.
Aspire.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing to aspire to be your authentic self, not a copy of anyone, and no one can be a copy of you because like it's too complicated.
It is. I think that's very beautiful. It's like for you to be authentic, you have to aspire to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think that's very powerful.
It's a commitment,
It's a commitment. You can't just be authentic and be like, okay, what is authenticity? I want to become authentic, and authenticity means different things for different people.
But it mainly means honesty and like being grounded and just honest with yourself and everybody around you and how you see things and how you perceive things. Like I think journaling is one of the very productive ways to perceive yourself in a grounded way,
I love that.
Because you have to be super honest in how you represent yourself when you're writing to yourself,
That is a very good way of looking at it. I love journaling. I've never thought about it being a way to being honest with yourself. Because you're right. At that point, you're just putting everything there. You're answering questions. And it's a good way to reflect as well.
Yeah. And even the language you're using. It's either you're trying to be a character in an American movie or you're just like, I'm doing this for me. So how am I doing this?
Yeah, I love that. And this is just going to be like a small plug. If you follow Yellow Stock, we have in my Healing Era Habibi as a channel, we put journal prompts. So
oh, you do?
Yeah, of course. We got to heal together as a community.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
So Lina, thank you so much for sharing that. Right now, we've learned a lot about you. We've learned about your journey and having different lives and having different chapters in your life right now. When you were 19 years old,
Yeah.
you took part in The Voice Israel and you won The Voice.
Yeah.
You won.
Yes.
And you were the first and only and the last Palestinian to ever win The Voice in Israel.
Yes.
What did you take away from that experience?
It made me dive into the complexity of being a Palestinian who lives in this place under occupation and what it comes with and all the framing that you're put into and all the limitation that comes with it.
Your existence is a form of resistance.
Yes, it is.
And just by being and showing that representation, you're telling the stories of the 2 million Palestinians who are still living in occupied Palestine right now.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Like with the knowledge I have today, with the options you have today, like we're talking about 2012, you know? I won in 2013, but like it was 2012. Social media was still like baby steps, no streaming platforms in the region. Like globalization wasn't what it is today. You don't know much. You don't get the political and cultural education that you should be getting. So no, definitely not.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. What is a song of Lina that she loves to sing that you want to share with us today?
Oh, okay. Let's do like a spoken version of Fish Masari. Like I released Fish Masari just before the war, like a month before, and it didn't get the attention it deserved. And people like told me from Spotify Middle East, they were like, okay, we love that you're making music about like for Palestinians, but when are you planning to make music for like everybody else to understand? And after everything that's been happening in the past 8 months, I think Fish Masari resonates more than ever with everybody. Although it was written way before the war and everything that's been happening, it amplifies exactly what everyone's been going through in the past 8 months.
Fish Masari. And what does Fish Masari mean?
Oh, Fish Masari means no money.
No money.
No
A lot of people relate to that listening right now.
Yeah. But that's mainly like the sentence Palestinian independent artists hear most. Listen, we got this project and this and that, بس فيش مصاري.
Fish Masari.
And we're like, how am I supposed to fund everything I do if there is no income, you know? So yeah, it's a song that that dives into the paradox between art and capitalism under occupation. الفن بغذي الملايين بس ما بطعمي خبز، روحي العاشق والحزين بس روحي أنا طز، أنا وإنت مين بتشجع على الفوز، بالآخر إحنا متشبهين دايرين لي على الشوز، والصحرة قاحلة الصحرة قاحلة، والناس عطشة الناس عطشة، والمي سحلة بتروي الأرض الخضرة، بس بيطلع منها سيلفي بنتي كله عينيه على الكاميرات، ما في بجيابنا شكلين، لمين أصلاً كل هالاستعراض، عايش الفخامي على دين، كلنا منعيد بعبارات ولا حدا فينا بيكتب كلمتين، والديليما لما الدنيا ماشي ترلا لا لما الدنيا تضيق يا ربي ليه، ما فيش ما فيش مصاري، ما فيش ما فيش مصاري، ما فيش ما فيش مصاري. ما فيش ما فيش مصاري، ما فيش ما فيش مصاري، ما فيش مصاري. دولي بقلب دولي مستقلة داخلية، خايف مننا كمل اكتب سنة فهم المسؤولية، عارفة انه المطارات مش رح تكون لي ودودية، بس واقعنا الطيارات لازم نوصله العالمية، دولة ناسا من اساسا ما تقوليش افكار وهمية، مش رح نوصل MTVs كمان انغامي عالمية، نقدر نعمل هيستوري اذا كانت ايدنا فولاذية، ما يهمك ما فيش ما فيش مصاري، ايوه ايه مصاري قوم اطلعي ليهمك قوم اطلعي ليهمك
Lina, that's amazing. I wanted to clap in between. I was like, I don't want to ruin your beat and rhythm. That was awesome. And what powerful lyrics. Lina, thank you so much for coming on Yellow Let's Talk today.
Thank you, Hani. Great conversation.
It really was a great conversation. We learned so much about who Lina Makoul is, and we learned about your upbringing as well as your music and the message you want to convey in your music. So thank you so much. And before we end today, I just want to leave the mic to you to tell people where they can find you and any exciting projects you want to tell the audience about.
Probably the album I'm working on. Be patient. It takes a while to do everything yourself. But like, I can promise and assure you that it's going to be worth it. And you can find me, my main communication tool is IG, handle Lina with an I, Makoul, Makoul, because most people can't pronounce the kha. And yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that.
Oh, and make sure to watch the music videos, because like they add such a deep layer to every song. So like, make sure you watch the music videos. Independently done by Palestinian crew, made in Palestine.
Made in Palestine.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I couldn't have said that better myself in terms of for you to experience Lina's art and music, you have to watch the visuals. On Mute specifically, that's the latest one that you've released, is a masterpiece. And I really hope everyone who is listening will go and start streaming On Mute and stream all of Lina's music.
Thank you.
You guys, thank you so much for joining us today on Yellow Let's Talk. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to give us 5 stars and yalla, bye.